After years apart, my daughter revealed an unbelievable truth. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. My daughter slid a DNA report across the diner table and whispered, "They switched me." The coffee tasted like burnt pennies. The napkin under my cup held a ring the size of a wedding band. I'm Mara, 52, a school librarian who believes in paper trails and quiet rooms. 5 years of silence had settled between us like dust on a closed archive box, heavy and undisturbed, until Tessa called from a number I didn't recognize and asked for Harbor View Diner at noon. I keep a rule. If you keep the paper keeps you. Tessa's folder was the color of old manila and thick enough to warp. On top lay a page titled Relationship Testing Report, dated May 12, 2025, names redacted except for ours, and a probability column that tipped like a faulty scale. Beneath it were photocopies of neonatal wristbands, 2 different numbers for one date, and a discharge summary stamped 3:14 a.m., though I remember Dawn slatting through blinds when they wheeled me out. "It's not just the test," Tessa said, eyes on the chipped sugar caddy. "Someone keeps calling me. He says he's a liaison." "From where?" I asked. "The private clinic," she said. "He keeps saying privacy matters, like a warning." I thought of the school board's taste for tidy stories, of the coastal town that hates scandal the way boats hate rocks. Colin, my ex, would say, "Wait, breathe, let professionals handle it, pretend there is a lane to stay in." But librarians know lanes are imaginary. What exists are records and the hands that move them. "They mailed something to Dad," Tessa added. "Certified. Yesterday." I pictured Colin splitting an envelope with his brass letter opener, reading words that could tilt our lives. "You didn't come for permission," I said. "You came for a witness." Tessa nodded, jaw jittering. "And because they told me not to talk to you." I looked again at the report. The lab's chain of custody line was clean, the seal embossed, the swabs photographed beside a ruler. If the paperwork is right, my past is wrong, and the catalog of our life will need reshelving from the first card. I asked Tessa to show me everything, slowly, in order, like we were repairing a torn page with careful strips of heat-set tissue. Then Tessa slid a second wristband across, trembling, and said, "Look, 5 years is enough time for a fight to harden into folklore." The truth is Messier. The divorce papers finalized in March 2020. Colin and I divided furniture like cautious archaeologists, labeling boxes with blue tape as if naming would protect the contents. Tessa chose his apartment because it faced the bay and didn't smell like the history I insisted on keeping. Her last birthday, I made lemon cake. She said, "It tastes like you're trying." We argued about a scholarship decision, about a boyfriend I couldn't welcome, about a text I read and shouldn't have. On the worst night, I said, "You can come back when you're ready to keep your promises," and she walked out carrying only her keys. 2 months later, I ignored a message that began, "Mom, I'm safe," but because pride has a way of dressing like discipline. I filed that message under "someday" and closed the drawer. Now, across the diner table, she traced a finger along the edge of the lab report like it might cut. "I did the test because of the vaccination log," she said. "Mine doesn't match the hospital's card." She showed me a photo, front and back, lot numbers and dates, a pediatrician's stamp from Dr. Beeman's office. The hospital copy showed 2 early doses we never scheduled, and there were 2 wristbands. I asked. "Aunt June kept one," Tessa said. She said the nurse put the wrong band on and swapped it. June had told me about the storm that night, about the lights flickering and the generator coughing, about a sudden reroute from delivery to a private wing because of a leak. I folded that story into our scrapbook and left it there. "Mom," Tessa said, "the liaison says the clinic can help harmonize the records if we stop asking questions." She lifted her phone. A voicemail transcribed in gray blocks read, "Please consider that no one benefits from reopening events. Privacy protects everyone." Colin would loathe this. He fears liability like sailors fear shoals, muttering charts and cautions even in calm water. I sipped coffee, burned tongue, and understood why Tessa chose noon, public, bright. "We will look at everything," I said, "and we will proceed carefully." "Careful," she said, "hasn't kept them from calling." A shadow moved behind me, and a man in a tailored coat said my name. "Ms. Ellison?" the man asked. He set a business card on the table. "Our concern is very simple," he said. We value your privacy and wish to prevent administrative misunderstandings. At a diner? I asked. He smiled as though I'd requested the weather. Neutral ground feels safer. Tessa's jaw locked. You called me 3 times, she said. You asked me not to see my mother. I asked you to consider proportionality, he said. Records from the 90s can be confusing. Then why did Memorial's discharge time say 3:14 when Mom remembers sunrise? Tessa shot back. He slid the card closer. If there are discrepancies, the clinic can help harmonize them. That word again, harmonize, like sanding a lie until it felt smooth. I lifted the card. On the back, a handwritten case number, HPWC 27J. Why write a number? I asked. For continuity, he said, voice softening. And to show we're already addressing your concerns. Addressing them how? No answer. Only that polite, evaporating smile. That night, after I walked home through wind that smelled of salt and cold iron, a voicemail waited, timestamped 7:42 p.m. Ms. Ellison, we noticed the contact today. Please trust that escalation rarely helps families. At 8:03, an email arrived addressed to Colin, copied to a legal-sounding inbox, offering a meeting to resolve exposure. I didn't have access to his email, but at 8:11 Colin texted, Mara, did you talk to Tessa? We should not stir this. At 8:20, the district portal pinged, a module on protecting reputations. Probably coincidence. It still felt like a memo from the universe. In the morning mail, a hospital billing summary showed a line item I'd never seen. Temporary transfer, private wing, 0 hours. Attached was a duplicate neonatal ID sticker printed in a different font. I set both stickers on the counter and aligned their edges. The new serif was crisp, the old curved like a tired smile. I called Aunt June. Did you keep something from that night? She was quiet long enough for panic to grow bones. I kept a wristband, she said. I thought it was a souvenir until the nurse panicked. What nurse? The one who said not here, and wheeled you away when lights flickered. A new text arrived. Come alone tomorrow, or the offer expires. I didn't sleep. I sorted documents into piles like a reference desk triage. Hospital originals, pediatric duplicates, Tessa's DNA test, Aunt June's wristband in a zip bag. At dawn I called Colin. We need to meet, I said. He exhaled like someone stepping off a curb. Mara, don't involve the school, he said. Don't involve anyone. They already involved us, I said, and told him about the man at the diner with the tailored coat and the rehearsed smile. He's bluffing, Colin said, switching to the voice he uses for expensive problems. It's a settlement posture. Settlement for what? I asked. Silence crackled like cellophane. Look, he said carefully, hospitals make paperwork errors. If we push, they'll counterclaim. We can't afford a public mess. My phone vibrated with a calendar invite from an address ending liaison at Harbor Private. Org. Informal discussion, neutral venue, 2:30 p.m. The subject line included Tessa's full name and the case number in neat brackets. I declined and printed the invite anyway, hole-punched it, and slid it into a binder. Librarians are not warriors, but we are relentless, and we measure progress in pages secured. At school, the library smelled like binding glue and rain-soaked wool. I shelved a card of returned biographies with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. During a 7th grader's assignment on primary sources, I heard my own voice explain chain of custody as if it belonged to a calm woman. At lunch, Aunt June walked in, coat damp, hair pinned back, and placed a faded envelope on my desk. I kept more than the wristband, she said. Inside was a Polaroid of my hospital room door labeled C214 and a nurse's first name scribbled on the frame. Marta. The power went out at 1:10, June said. A young nurse said generators were hiccuping. She braced the 4-pole with her knee and said, Not here, not safe. She wheeled you to a wing with carpet. Hospitals don't carpet delivery floors. I wrote down the time, the room number, and the nurse's name. When the last bell rang, I switched off the desk lamp and remembered the liaison's warning about escalation. I locked the library, turned, and found the tailored coat waiting by the bulletin board. His posture said neighborly. His eyes said ledger. Ms. Ellison, he murmured, showing me the palms of his hands like an apology. No need for dramatics. We can resolve this. By harmonizing the past? I asked. By respecting privacy, he said. Yours, your daughter's, the clinic's patients. He gestured to the community board. Look, children's book drive, chess club, intro to genealogy on Thursday. Small towns flourish on good manners. They also keep minutes, I said. He smiled. Colin already understands that attention harms everyone. I felt heat rise up my neck. You contacted him without her consent? Parents make decisions, he said, as if reciting a calendar rule. And you are separated. The word landed like a stapler on a thin stack. Tell your employer, he added lightly, that medical gossip can violate district policies. You're threatening my job. I'm reminding you of the value of discretion. He slid a single-page acknowledgement of communication toward me with a capped pen on top. Sign, and we'll coordinate a confidential review. No headlines, no hearings. I stared at the pen and thought of Tessa's knuckles white around the DNA report. In the parking lot, rain stitched the asphalt. Aunt June waited in her car, eyebrows knitted, jaw set. He cornered you at work? She said when I told her. He hunted where you nest. Colin wants quiet, I said. Quiet is how stories get edited, June said. You taught me that. She tapped the Polaroid. Find Marta. That evening, I called the main hospital, asked for personnel archives, and was transferred to a music loop that sounded like relief on hold. After 22 minutes, a clerk said, "We don't give out staff details." I listed the date, the wing, the generator hiccup. Try compliance, she said kindly. Or the nurse alumni group on Facebook. Tessa texted, "He told me mom's not objective." He keeps saying that phrase. I typed back, "Objectivity is records. Meet me at the county archives at 10. Then the doorbell rang, and a certified letter slid onto my welcome mat like a threat wrapped in civility. The letter came from Memorial's legal counsel. It used language with clean edges, notice of records review, good faith effort, potential exposure. It invited collaboration toward harmonized documentation and asked me to refrain from informal copying in sensitive areas. I laughed, one sharp sound, because librarians know that official phrases are sometimes just duct tape with Latin on it. At the county archives, dust motes drifted like lazy plankton through a shaft of winter sun. Tessa sat at a microfilm reader, her folder open, pink highlighter uncapped. "Mom," she said, "they logged a temporary transfer code 114. B at 1:18 a.m. Charge, 2 hours. Location, NX West, which isn't on the public floor plan." The index cards for 1998 showed flood repairs on maternity and a temporary lease from Harbor Private Women's Clinic for overflow rooms to ensure VIP privacy. A duplicate neonatal ID sticker was taped to a maintenance work order with an arrow. Use alternate printer while main unit recalibrates. I wrote down the printer model number and the initials in the margin, MB. On a yellowed roster, we found a Marta Bell, RN assigned to C, 214 on my delivery date. Tessa whispered, "Got her," like a student finding the last book for a perfect bibliography. A retired clerk rolling a cart paused and peered at the roster. "Marta married a pharmacist," she said. "Moved to Green Harbor. She wrote letters to the editor about patient dignity." She chuckled. "Fire with manners." I copied the clerk's recollection, the town name, the year. My phone buzzed. "Colin, we're meeting liaison today at 2. Please don't escalate." I typed back, "I won't meet him without Tessa present." At noon, I called the number I had for Marta. A mechanical voice said the line was not in service, but offered to forward to a new listing. The forward rang 4 times. "This is Marta," a steady voice answered. "I remember that storm," she said after I gave my name. The generator coughed. "They routed you to the annex because a pipe burst. I was told private room protocol." "Did you change a wristband?" I asked. Silence pooled, heavy. "I was told to follow annex procedure," she said. "Sometimes procedure means swapping charts, not babies." Then she added, quietly, "A courier paid cash that night, and I signed a gag." "What courier?" I asked, pen already scratching. Marta took a breath. "A man in a gray suit with a raincoat folded over his arm." He handed the charge nurse an envelope. "She told me the annex printer was down and to use the portable labeler. The fonts didn't match." "Do you have copies?" "I kept my shift notes," she said. "I felt wrong that night. I wrote times, 110 power flicker, 114 reroute, 118 temporary transfer build, 126 portable ID used. 141 chart overlay replaced original. Overlay. I repeated. A transparent sheet with barcodes aligned over the original. When scanned, it fed the private clinic system instead of Memorial's, she said. VIP privacy. I thought it was about press avoidance. Tessa leaned closer to the receiver. Were any infants moved? A long pause, paper rustling. An infant from C-216 was in the annex nursery when I arrived, Marta said. The charge nurse said the mother preferred discretion. I never saw her face. My stomach clenched. Can you meet us? I asked. I'm not brave like I sound, she said. But my husband says bravery is just truth with timing. Tomorrow, noon, Green Harbor Diner. Bring a recorder and a witness. We left the archives as gulls spun over the courthouse roof. Outside, a man smoked in the lee of the steps and pretended not to stare. He's watching, Tessa said. Then we're doing something right, I said, even though my hands were damp. At home, I spread documents across the kitchen table, mapped times against times, and circled mismatches in red. I printed a consent form for Marta to read and sign. I wrote a list titled Plan, Record Statements, Copy Badge Logs, Request Annex Lease, Pull Nurse Schedules, Call Compliance, Call Detective Noor if retaliation escalates. I left the last line blank. At 9:06 p.m. an email arrived from compliance at Memorial Health. Org, requesting a preliminary chat to understand concerns. At 9:12, a second email appeared, this one from Liaison at Harbor Private. Org, we hear you're speaking with former staff. Please consider reputational harm. At 9:18, my porch light died with an audible pop, and a car idled at the curb like a held breath. I told myself the bulb died of age. I told myself the idling car belonged to a neighbor who liked radio news. I told myself many reasonable fictions until the engine cut and the silence felt orchestrated. I texted Aunt June. Porch light out. Car loitered. She replied, sleep with the downstairs lamp on, and put the papers in the oven. I laughed, then slid the binder into the cold oven because sometimes old wives' tricks are the fastest safes. The next morning, Tessa and I drove to Green Harbor with the windows cracked to clear the salt. The diner there wore its decades proudly. Red stools, pie case, a waitress who called everyone Han. Marta arrived in a navy cardigan with a floral scarf and the posture of a woman who doesn't waste weeks. She placed a spiral notebook on the table. I wrote these notes the night after your birth, she said. I kept them in a shoebox marked receipts. My husband says I collect evidence like beads. I clicked the recorder. Do you consent to being recorded? I do, she said. I want my conscience archived. She read, 110 lights flicker, 114 order to reroute C, 214 to Annex West, 118 code 114. B temporary transfer build, 126 portable neonatal ID issued, 133 parent liaison arrives, gray suit, 141 chart overlay applied, 202 mother sleeping, infant in annex nursery, 210 charge nurse says private patient C, 216 prefers anonymity, 222 courier leaves, 240 generators stable. She slid a photo across, a gloved hand holding a clear plastic overlay with barcodes visible like fish bones. I took this months later during training, she said. It's what we used. Tessa's voice was steady and thin. Could overlays lead to a switch? Marta looked at us with a kind of exhausted kindness. Overlays lead to misalignment, she said. If someone wanted a swap, overlays make it deniable. A man entered, shook rain from a tan coat, and sat at the counter without ordering. Marta noticed and folded her scarf. That's him, she murmured. That's the courier who paid cash. We didn't turn to look at once. I lifted the consent form, shielding my mouth. Do you want to leave? I whispered. No, Marta said. Name him, and he stops being myth. He put a tip on the counter before coffee arrived and headed for the door. Tessa stood fast. Sir, she called, voice calm and bright. Are you with Harbor Private? He paused, eyes scanning. I'm with nobody, he said. I prefer weather like this. He left without waiting for the bell's echo to die. Marta exhaled. I'll email you scans, she said, and a list of staff who left after that winter. I recorded a second consent, placed the notebook beside our binder, and wrote down the courier's gait. Right shoulder slightly higher, soles squeaking like new rubber. Details matter when memories fray. Back home, I drafted requests, badge swipe logs for Annex West on my delivery date, portable printer maintenance tickets, lease documents between Memorial and Harbor Private, compliance memos, nurse schedules, liaison contracts, and photos of the Annex corridor. I CC'd Memorial's compliance office and my personal email. I titled each file with the date first because that's how you keep chaos searchable. I also wrote an intake email to Detective Noor, whom I'd met during a school safety talk. This may be nothing, I wrote, or it may be a story with missing pages and a donor of cash. Noor replied in under an hour. Happy to meet informally. Paper first, people second. At sunset, Colin knocked, face drawn tight. They say you're contacting former staff, he said. They say you're making claims. I'm collecting facts, I said, and I won't sign anything that muzzles us. He rubbed his temple. Our names will be searchable forever, he said. Tessa's job prospects, your board position, my license. This could shatter all of it. If a document can rewrite our life, we should read it loudly, I said. He sat, head bowed. I got a letter, he admitted. They offered to pay for counseling and to harmonize without admissions if we stop. He slid the letter across the table like contraband. Tessa read, lips moving. They call me the subject, she said. Like an experiment. Aunt June arrived with cookies and a tape dispenser and said, if they're this generous in whispers, the public price is higher. The library board met that night. I wore my plainest cardigan and carried my comm like a file folder. During public comment, a woman praised our genealogy workshop. The liaison rose from the back row like a tide. A reminder, he said smoothly, that public employees must avoid entanglement with private medical situations. He didn't say my name. The board's eyes still found me. The chair cleared her throat. We appreciate discretion, she said, glancing at the district council seated 2 chairs down. I raised my hand. I will recuse myself from any agenda item touching medical privacy, I said, but I will not be intimidated as a mother. A soft gasp rippled, like a page turned in unison. After adjournment, the liaison approached with a smile you could butter knives on. No need for performance, he said. You have much to lose. I have a good filing system, I said. He leaned in. We have better lawyers. Outside, the night smelled like ocean and wet leaves. I met Aunt June by the magnolia tree. You almost caved, she said gently. I'm human, I said. Then let's borrow some steel from someone trained for this, she replied. In the morning, Detective Noor met us at a coffee shop with windows like honest eyes. She wore a gray sweater and carried a legal pad. I'm here to listen, she said. I laid out the binder, Marta's notes, the certified letters, the emails with their careful euphemisms. Noor asked clean questions. Who handled the DNA test, chain of custody names, exact times. I can request certain logs informally, she said. If doors stay shut, I file formal requests. If someone threatens you, I document and escalate. She underlined Annex West. Shadow spaces create shadow behavior, she said. We agreed on a plan, a mediated meeting with Memorial's compliance officer, hospital counsel, and, if Noor could swing it, a county health representative. Bring Colin, Noor advised. Witnesses close family members from revising later. Tessa folded and unfolded the consent form. What if this blows back on Mom's job? Then blow forward, June said. Make it so public their shadows look foolish. Noor nodded once. I'll send invitations, she said. That evening, a plain envelope arrived with no return address, and inside was a photocopy of a memo titled Post-Event Harmonization with our dates circled twice. The memo read like someone teaching a class in erasing footprints. In incidents where VIP patients require privacy assurances, it said, coordinate with affiliate clinics to streamline records and minimize discrepancies. Bullet points followed, overlay charts, reconcile timestamps, employ patient liaison for communication. It used the phrase post-event harmonization 3 times, as if repetition could make it sanitary. At the bottom, initialed in blue, MB. I swallowed hard. That's Marta's initials, Tessa whispered. I snapped a photo and sent it to Noor. She replied, bring original to meeting. Don't confront Marta yet. I didn't want to suspect our one courageous nurse. I also knew documents can be co-signed and repurposed without consent. The meeting landed on a Tuesday, 11 a.m. Memorial's conference room B. We arrived early. The compliance officer had careful hair. Hospital counsel had a navy suit like weatherproofing. The liaison sat at the end, prim as a punctuation mark. Nor placed a small audio recorder on the table. Informal conversation, she said. Voluntary. We're here to understand. I slid the binder forward. DNA report. Duplicate wristbands. Discharge time mismatch. Billing code 114. B. Lease note. Marta's timeline. The anonymous memo. The compliance officer touched the memo with one fingertip. That document looks like an internal draft, she said. Where did you get it? Mailbox Fairy, I said. Do you deny its content? Counsel cleared his throat. We don't authenticate anonymous material. Nor kept her voice even. Can you explain Annex West? The compliance officer smiled professionally. During renovations in the late 90s, Memorial leased space from an affiliated clinic for high-profile patients who feared media. Were charts overlaid? Nur asked. Processes evolve, the officer said. Technologies change. Were infants exposed to risk? I asked. Silence. Colin looked like a man trying to stop a bridge from swaying by sheer thought. We do not believe any infants were endangered, counsel said. And we are committed to privacy. Privacy isn't a broom, Aunt June said softly. Then Nor pressed a button on the recorder, and a screen on the wall lit with names and badge swipes. Nor had obtained the annex badge log for my delivery night. The screen displayed a simple table, time, door, staff ID. At 1:14, Nor said, C. 2:14 reroute order. At 1:18, Annex West door entry by M. Bellarin. At 1:26, portable printer LP, 200 activated. At 1:33, parent liaison badge swipe with vendor ID. At 1:41, chart overlay barcode registered. She tapped the memo. Your draft matches events minute by minute. The compliance officer's smile thinned. This data is incomplete without context. Context, Nor said, is why we're here. She clicked to the next slide, a cross-reference of donor files. In that winter, 3 VIP deliveries used alias charts originating from Harbor Private Women's Clinic, she said. 2 involved donor eggs. 1 involved a sealed adoption. My throat clenched. Are you saying Tessa might not be? I couldn't finish. Counsel lifted a palm. We are not drawing conclusions. The liaison finally spoke. Whatever your suspicions, public claims harm many families, he said, tone faux gentle. Why not accept a confident truth? A confident truth isn't the same as a true one, I said. Nor pulled up one last document. A maintenance ticket for the portable labeler with a handwritten note. Fonts misaligned. Reprint neonatal IDs. Keep originals for audit. Where are the originals? She asked. The compliance officer looked at counsel. He said, we don't retain every ephemeral. Nor nodded as though filing that sentence under useful later. Here's what will happen, she said. We will image your systems with your consent or a warrant. We will interview staff. We will verify chain of custody for recent DNA. And we will advise these citizens on civil counsel. The liaison turned to me, voice dropping. If you love your daughter, do not make her a headline. Tessa stood, face pale and luminous. I'm already a headline, she said softly. You wrote it for me. The air in the conference room thinned. Counsel gathered his papers into a neat rectangle. The compliance officer checked her watch as if time might reassert control. The liaison smiled without teeth. Nor clicked off the screen and handed us a list of legal aid clinics and a private attorney's card. Carter and Hale, medical records litigation. I don't do civil, she said, but I'll document threats, and I'll keep pushing for preservation. We walked into the fluorescent hallway like diverse surfacing. Colin leaned against the water fountain. I wanted to protect us, he said hoarsely, by closing the book. Books mold when sealed, Aunt June said. Outside, a reporter in a yellow raincoat hovered by the steps, looking for faces. No comment, Nur said calmly, intercepting her. They're private citizens. We drove home quiet, the wipers keeping time. At my house, I found a district email. A parent had accused me of weaponizing library access based on a rumor that I'd used the stacks to spy. The principal asked for a clarifying conversation. I put the kettle on, turned off the oven, papers still inside, and sat with Tessa at the table. I can handle a hearing, I said. What I can't handle is pretending you're not my daughter while we tiptoe. She nodded. I disappeared yesterday, she said, voice small. I went to the bay and walked the pier until my feet hurt. I kept thinking about the baby in C-216. Where is she now? The question hovered like fog. We'll find out, I said, but slowly, with good paper. That night, the reporter left a card in my mailbox. At 2 a.m., someone rattled my back gate and ran, nor logged the incident. In the morning, Carter from the firm called. I've seen harmonization memos, he said. They're reputation fire blankets. We'll file a preservation letter today. Will this eat my life? I asked. Yes, he said, not unkindly. But it's the only way to return your hours to you. Then the school district scheduled my clarifying conversation for Friday at 9, and the invitation CC'd the clinic's counsel. I dressed for the meeting like I dress for winter storms. Layers, flat shoes, documents sealed in plastic sleeves. The principal's office smelled like lemon cleaner and effort. District counsel began. We've heard concerns about boundaries. I laid out a thin stack. Personal email headers, compliance correspondences, Nora's card, and a letter from Carter asserting my rights as a parent and citizen. I have not accessed protected medical records through school systems, I said clearly. I have not used student databases. I am advocating for my family with private materials. And I am recusing myself from any board matters that intersect health privacy. The principal's shoulders lowered. District counsel nodded, disappointed that the easy route had vanished. We appreciate clarity, she said. After, in the hallway, I breathed and texted Tessa, still employed. She replied with a photo of tea mugs and the caption, "A waiting hero." That afternoon, Carter met us in his conference room, walls lined with framed consent decrees like trophies from battles worth having. We set conditions, he said. No hush language. Independent DNA with chain of custody videotaped. Access to badge logs, annex lease, portable printer maintenance, overlay procedures. A written statement to correct the record if misattribution occurred. He leaned back. We offer them a settlement path that values truth, not quiet. Colin rubbed his face. What if we expose a family that never knew? Carter's eyes softened. Then we handle it with guardrails. He tapped the table twice. Healing follows daylight. We drafted the letter. We scheduled another session with Nor. We made a therapy appointment for next week. I wrote boundaries on a legal pad like a covenant. We will not meet the liaison alone. We will not accept calls after 9. We will not apologize for asking for our own history. We will help Tessa, but only with counsel present. I slid the paper into a page protector and labeled it Boundaries, Family. Then my phone chimed with a new email subject that felt like an earthquake rolling under my feet. Subject, Possible Cross-Match, Contact Requested. The email came from a woman named Lydia. Same night. Room C, 216, mismatched wristband numbers, vaccination log that didn't square with her pediatrician's records. She attached a photo of a bassinet tag from the annex nursery using the same crisp serif font as our duplicate sticker. I felt the floor steady and then, strangely, lift, like a boat catching a clean wave. Tessa read over my shoulder, her breath warm, and said, very quietly, "If this is real, we do it right." I called Lydia. She answered on the second ring and agreed to meet tomorrow at Detective Nor's office with Carter present. No reporters, no liaisons, just paper and people. We filmed the chain of custody for 2 new DNA tests. Buccal swabs labeled on camera, timestamps visible, forms signed in triplicate. A week later, 7 days of walking the pier, shelving books, and sleeping with the lamp on. Carter rang. The results are conclusive. We met in his conference room, blinds open to a square of honest sky. Nur slid across 2 reports like answer keys. Tessa and Lydia's daughter, Sophie, were a 99% biological match to the opposite mothers. The father markers aligned with Colin and Lydia's husband. There was no drama, just paperwork that finally told the truth aloud. Memorial issued a corrective statement through counsel, a records reconciliation, acknowledging procedural failures during renovation and improper use of overlay methods. Harbor Private's liaison program was suspended. The health department opened an investigation. The board minutes recorded a vote to end the affiliate lease from that era and audit all berths touched by Annex West. Marta, who had feared her initials on a draft, testified and was thanked, on the record, for preserving her notes. The courier's real name surfaced in an internal vendor audit. He resigned before the ink could dry. Carter negotiated terms that fit our boundaries. Independent verification, no gag language, therapy covered for both families, and a written process to contact any other affected parents. The district closed my clarifying conversation with a pale apology. The principal brought a lemon cake to the staff room and said it tasted like relief. In Noor's office, we introduced our daughters to the idea that biology and biography can share a house without breaking furniture. We decided, not all at once, but with careful, dated emails, that we would not swap lives. We would share them. Holidays would be experiments. Everyday help would be practical. We wrote it down. On a clear morning, Tessa and I walked the pier where she had once vanished to think. No matter what, she said, you're still my mother. I said, and you're still my girl. We mailed a packet to the genealogy workshop. How to request records, how to guard chain of custody, how to read a wristband number without flinching. At home, I took the binder from the oven, removed the last page protector, and relabeled the spine. Mara and Tessa, history, corrected. We shelved it where we could reach it easily, not to reopen wounds, but to remember how paper, and the people who refuse to be harmonized, can return names to the right hearts.